day and welcome to another edition of Citizens Movement Radio News. Today is Monday, 17 November 2025. I'm Bernard Stele, ready to bring you the latest news and updates. Here are today's headlines on Citizens Movement Radio News. President Chamisa speaks on academic freedoms. The era of November 2017 must not be repeated again, says Juma. Shock as riot police barricade BT law chambers. Now let's delve into the detailed stories. The Citizens President Advocate Nelson Chamisa has said young people must never be silenced through repressive and terror tactics for voicing their concerns. His comments comes after two students from Chinhoyi University of Technology were last week abducted and tortured by state agents. Advocate Chamisa said his new and next government will guarantee student freedoms and young people's voices. Posting on his social media platforms yesterday, he added that his government will make sure that the head of state shall not be the chancellor of all universities. Today is part of the days marking 8 years of the coup that installed ZANU-PF dictator Emmerson Mnangagwa as the president of Zimbabwe. Opposition official Stephen Sakos Juma said citizens are now paying heavily for supporting the coup that removed dictator Robert Mugabe. He said while Mugabe was dead, Mnangagwa has proved to be even worse than his predecessor. He said the solution for Zimbabwe is to resist the so-called 2030 agenda and elect a civilian president with the people at heart, Chuma said.
Yes, today is 17 November 2025 and it marks exactly 8 years since ZANU-PF dictator the late Robert Gabriel Mugabe was removed from power by the military with the backing of the majority of citizens. Little did we know that Robert Mugabe would turn out to be a better demon as compared to Emmerson Mnangagwa. It is under Emmerson Mnangagwa that we have witnessed an increase in abductions and human rights violations. It is under Emmerson Mnangagwa that we have seen a new phenomenon of pre-trial detentions, where opposition and civil society leaders are put in jail for a long time before their trial. It is under Emmerson Mnangagwa we have seen this new creature called Ugandandas, which basically refers to cartels linked to his office who are bleeding this country dry through corruption. It is under Emmerson Mnangagwa where we see individuals like Jivayo Tagwirei boasting about corruption and are not investigated. But our call to the people of Zimbabwe is that let's resist the so-called 2030 agenda, which seeks to entrench Emmerson Mnangagwa's dictatorship by giving him a life presidency. This time, let's not support a ZANU-PF faction, but let's support the constitution. Let's support the constitution. Let's demand for electoral reforms, because it is only when we have a free and fair election that Zimbabwe is going to have a pro-poor and pro-people president that will address their needs and demands.
Hordes of riot police officers barricaded law offices belonging to opposition leader Tendai Biti on Saturday. The former finance minister is one of the leading voices against the unpopular ZANU-PF 2030 agenda. The human rights defender and trade unionist Robert Masaraure condemned actions by the police and they reflect a regime in panic mode. He said the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa is now afraid of citizens following their intentions to amend the constitution to extend his prolonged stay in power, Masaraure said.
Mnangagwa's ill-informed attempt to extend his term beyond 2028 has triggered massive resistance that he never anticipated. He never anticipated that people would come together, unite, and fight back. At the end of the day, it is his own making. All the resistance is his own making. The opposition had been fragmented. There was inaction across the country. No one was organizing But this 2030 agenda is forcing people to organize. What we saw at Tendebit is a law firm is a clear indication that Mnangagwa is realizing that he is attempting to subvert the constitution is now backfiring. And now the deployment of police at his offices, the bombing of Sapes, the bombing of a house in Byfield, the abduction even of my own nephew, among other things. These are all signs that the regime is now in panic mode. We urge Emerson Mnangagwa to do the right thing and stop the attempt to extend his term of office beyond the mandated two terms. It should be noted that citizens had forgotten that Mnangagwa even rigged the elections in 2023. People had moved on, but now people are now forced to reflect and say, but this is a man who we never even elected to come into office in 2023, and he now wants to extend his hold on power beyond what is constitutional mandated. And again, he is a president who has failed to deliver. These are years where poverty is being manufactured among the citizens. We've seen massive suffering among our people, learners dropping out of school, people failing to access health care, among other things. And now, because of all those things, people were just enduring and saying in 2028 maybe we have a chance to change leadership. But if they continues on this trajectory, citizens may be forced to unite and ask him to step down before even the expiry of his mandate in 2028.
Newly appointed ZANU-PF Central Committee member and one of the notorious cartels, Kudakwashi Tagwirei, is receiving flack from citizens after his speech over the weekend in which he called for an end to money laundering by 2030. Tagwirei was named by the Sentinel as one of the architects of money laundering, where he reportedly has offshore accounts in countries like Mauritius that he uses to keep money from his ill-gotten wealth through winning contracts without going through tender processes. Political analyst Jefferson Chitando said it will be disastrous if Tagwirei becomes president of Zimbabwe. Politician and former Zengeza West MP Job Sikhala has revealed names of individuals whom he believes planted explosives in his car in South Africa. In an interview with Channel Africa, Sikhala named two Zimbabwean citizens in South Africa, Tinashe Mpofu and Nigel Sibanda, as behind the plot to insert explosives in his car. He said he is confident that he will be cleared by South African courts as they are independent, unlike Zimbabwe's captured courts. Let's hear part of the interview.
So who is, to your mind, behind your persecution, and what would it achieve? Is it you as...
No, the people who are responsible for my persecution is clearly the regime in Harare through their intelligence operatives. So the intelligence system of Zimbabwe is the one that was on operation to make sure that the first thing that you have to know is that what I later gathered is that these explosives could have exploded at any time from under my seat, and I could have just been blown into pieces together with my angle. So the first thing is that they wanted to assassinate me. That was purely an assassination which they wanted to carry out against me. Then secondly, a failure of which it happened that it didn't happen was for them to have tipped the police officers of South Africa for them to find us with explosions, knowing very well that the issue of criminality in South Africa being carried out by several criminals, blowing banks and also ATMs in South Africa is a huge issue. So they thought that I was going to be arrested and got into prison, and then during the period of my incarceration in prison, they will be able to do what they want and not having any opposition in as far as fighting against Mnangagwa's intention to extend this term of office to 2030 is concerned. They don't want anyone to oppose it, and anybody who is seen to be organizing around the issues of resisting the prolongation of Emerson Mnangagwa's term of office is in trouble in our country. This is a reality. The struggle of the people of Zimbabwe is real, and these are some of the trials and tribulations that we come across, and there is no doubt and for everyone must know that this has been carried
All
out
right.
by
Mr. Sikhala, we are
SNCC.
running out of time, and I need to ask you this. In brief, what is your next move?
My next move is for us to make sure that this matter is cleared by the courts of law. We are anxiously waiting for the day of the trial. We have been admitted to bail. We will follow the needs for us to present ourselves to the processes of the courts of law, and after the completion of the trial, then we will see the verdict after that. But we will continue and intensify our campaign against the entrenchment of dictatorship in Zimbabwe.
Right.
We will not stop. No one will be able to solve our own problems. It is incumbent upon us as citizens of Zimbabwe for us to solve the political challenges that we are facing. So we will proceed and continue fighting against 2030.
Mr. Sikhala, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, we do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, sir.
The country's schools examination board, ZIMSEC, is under scrutiny following reports of poor handling of exam papers for this year's exams. There are fears that the exams might have leaked, and such reports places credibility of the country's education integrity on the line. ATU's Deputy Secretary General Nyaradzi Masiwa said ZIMSEC needs to be reconstituted. Let's hear Masiwa speaking.
Allegations of leakages of ZIMSEC exams and malpractice are not surprising. We do not invest much in the teachers who are on the ground. We need to motivate our teachers who are on the ground, and we will continue to say that and emphasize that. That was our worry when we stated that the ZIMSEC Amendment Bill is not prioritizing the teacher where ZIMSEC examinations are going to be administered mostly, where the writing of exams are taking place, where the clients for these exams are located, the clients who are the learners themselves. They need a motivated teacher to monitor and implement the writing of exams. So this teacher needs to be paid, needs to be happy at the ground, needs to be motivated. The school environment needs to be secured, needs to be motivated, and there has to be channels to report these malpractice, where whistleblowing is protected, where people know which channels to take, which steps to take in order to report these cases of malpractice without exposing themselves or exposing schools. So we need to think along those lines. We need to have policies that protect the person who is reporting malpractice. We need a teacher who is motivated. So if there are no ways to protect the person who can report malpractice, people will just stop reporting and will think that we have minimized exam leakages, whereas we would not have minimized anything, because the punishment comes to the school where exam leakages would have alleged to have taken place, and that school is banned or results for learners are withheld because maybe they would have reported malpractices. But that's not the issue. The issue should target protecting anyone who can report exam leakages.
Bulawayo Mayor Deft Coulthard has described riverbank mining as a threat to national security. Speaking in a recent interview with our sister channel Society, Mayor Coulthard said the amount of devastation caused by riverbank mining was causing Bulawayo's dams to have less water and filled with silt. He called on the army to intervene by patrolling the rivers in order to stop this destruction as a matter of urgency. Let's hear him explaining.
If we do not tackle the scourge, if I can underline any point this morning, if we don't stop the scourge of the riverbank mining, our dams are going to continually be half full. I use the example of this last rainy season. We had an above average rainy season. We had about 700 mils. And there is a startling comparison to be made between the three big dams in Metopus National Parks and our city dams. They are all in the same area. If you go to Maleme, to Togwana, to Mchelele, even now you'll see some of them are close to spilling. They are something like 70 or 80%. All three spilt. They were 100% full in this rainy season. And yet our city dams, for example, Umzingwani only got up to 38% in the last rainy season. And the difference is simply, in the Metopus National Parks, there is no mining going on. The catchment areas are still pristine, and so the water flows into the dams. However, in our catchment areas, and I encourage you, site, go down with your cameras. Go down, it's not far from here, 20 kilometers south of here. When you go past Kobulawayo and Hope Fountain, you will see devastated rivers. Entire rivers dug up by gold mining. And government banned it last year, if you recall. But on the ground, and I see it, you know, to keep myself sane, I ride a mountain bike. And I ride every week. And I see it with my own eyes. Nothing is happening to stop the gold mining. If you go to Inyankuni, you will be profoundly shocked. Profoundly shocked. Whole mountains taken away. Whole river systems taken away. And it's continuing to this day. If we don't stop that, we can build glass block, we can build all sorts of other water facilities, and we will continue to have water shortages. And it's not just a matter of stopping this. We have to rehabilitate some of these river systems. But I actually went to the lengths of speaking to General Sibanda last year to say this actually needs the military to get involved, quite frankly. Not to shoot people, but I stress, but to come in and help us, because it is a national crisis. It is an existential threat to our city and our nation. And we need Emma, we need the police, we need the army, I believe, to actually come into these areas and stop the mining. If that doesn't happen, then we will continue to have problems with water in our city. And it's not just a problem affecting our city, it's other areas, but it's more acute here.
In a separate story, Bulawayo Mayor Dave Coulthard has expressed concern over the continued detention of Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye. Posting on his social media platforms, Mayor Coulthard said he is concerned that over a year after his arrest, Besigye continues to languish in pretrial detention under Yoweri Museveni's dictatorship. Museveni has been in power in the East African nation since 1986. The city of Bulawayo has issued a public health alert over suspected hand, foot and mouth disease cases. Authorities described HFMD as a contagious viral infection that mainly affects young children but can also be transmitted to adults through close contact. Health officials warn that the disease spreads through saliva, mucus, and blister fluids, with symptoms such as mouth sores, rashes, fever, and loss of appetite. Residents have been advised to practice strict hygiene, avoid close contact with infected individuals, and isolate if symptoms occur. Officials said monitoring is underway, though the number of suspected cases has not been disclosed. The court in Bangladesh has sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death for crimes against humanity after hundreds of protesters were killed in July last year that saw her being removed from power. The court also ordered compensation for protesters killed and wounded during the uprising. The trial, conducted in absentia by the International Crimes Tribunal, concluded after a month-long investigation into allegations of mass murder, torture, and the excessive use of force during the student-led protests. Hasina, who fled to India shortly after the uprising and has denied all charges as politically motivated, now faces uncertain prospects for extradition amid strained relations between Bangladesh and its neighbor. Now let's take a look at our sports news on Citizens Movement Radio. The Warriors will take on Qatar in Saudi Arabia this evening in a friendly match to prepare for next month's AFCON tournament. The match will be Mario Marinika's second game in charge after his appointment as Warriors coach. Meanwhile, Zifa has dismissed reports of disharmony in the Warriors camp by clarifying that midfielder Tawanda Chirewa was allowed to leave camp as part of the agreement with his club Wolves. In Africa World Cup qualifiers playoffs, Nigeria's hopes of reaching next year's tournament were ended by DR Congo, who edged them 4-3 on penalties after the match ended 1-0 after extra time. DRC will now play in the Intercontinental Playoffs with the hope of reaching to the World Cup for the first time since 1974. Norway thumped Italy 4-1 at San Siro last night to qualify for next year's World Cup. Here are the results from UEFA World Cup qualifiers played over the weekend. Albania 0, England 2, Hungary 2, Ireland 3, Israel 4, Moldova 9, Ukraine 2, Iceland 0, Serbia 2, Latvia 1, Azerbaijan 1, France 3, Portugal 9, Armenia 1, Switzerland 4, Sweden 1, Greece 3, Scotland 2, Slovenia 0, Kosovo 2, Denmark 2, Belarus 2, Georgia 0, Spain 4, Cyprus 0, Austria 2, Bosnia and Herzegovina 3, Romania 1. To conclude our Citizens Movement Radio News, here are the headlines once more. President Chamisa speaks on academic freedoms. The era of November 2017 must not be repeated again, says Juma. Shock as riot police barricade Bitilo chambers. The news on CMR English was brought to you by Bernard Chele. Me and the whole crew wishes you a wonderful evening. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Meet us again another news bulletin. Stay tuned to Citizens Movement Radio, your station of choice, speaking truth to power.